Are the Cleveland Browns about to make a draft decision that could define Shedeur Sanders' entire NFL future? With the number 6 pick looming, one name keeps surfacing: Carnell Tate. But this isn't just about adding a receiver, it's about whether Cleveland truly believes their new quarterback can lead the franchise forward. When the Cleveland Browns decided to bring in Shedeur Sanders as a potential centerpiece of their future offense, the move immediately sparked excitement. Sanders had already built a massive reputation in college football. His confidence, his poise under pressure, and his ability to make big throws in big moments made him one of the most talked-about young quarterbacks entering the league. But stepping into the NFL, especially with a franchise like Cleveland, is a completely different challenge. The reality is that young quarterbacks rarely walk into perfect situations, and some analysts believe Sanders might be entering one of the toughest environments a rookie quarterback could face. The Browns have talent, but the offense around him still has serious question marks. For starters, the team has struggled with offensive consistency in recent seasons. Injuries along the offensive line disrupted protection, forcing quarterbacks into uncomfortable situations. Drives stalled, timing broke down, and when the protection collapses in the NFL, even elite quarterbacks can look ordinary. Then there's the wide receiver room. Cleveland does have talent, including Jerry Jeudy, who arrived with expectations of becoming a major offensive weapon. Jeudy has shown flashes of elite route running and big play ability, but the problem, according to some analysts, is consistency. At times he looks like a true number 1 receiver. At other times, the offense struggles to find a reliable go-to option when the game is on the line. For a rookie quarterback like Sanders, that uncertainty can become a major obstacle. Quarterbacks entering the league need a receiver they can trust, someone who will be exactly where they expect on crucial downs. When that connection isn't there yet, it can slow down development and shake a young quarterback's rhythm. Some fans believe the Browns may still be missing that clear offensive identity. Are they a run-first team, a vertical passing attack, or a balanced offense built around quick reads and timing routes? Without a clear direction, it becomes harder for a young quarterback to settle in. Of course, not everyone sees the situation as a problem. Some observers argue the Browns have more talent than critics admit. They believe Sanders' confidence and leadership could actually elevate the players around him. After all, great quarterbacks often change the culture of a team. Still, the pressure will be enormous. Cleveland fans have been waiting for stability at the quarterback position for years. Every new quarterback arrives with hope and with expectations that quickly become intense. And that's exactly why the Browns' next move in the draft could be so important. Because if Sanders is going to succeed in Cleveland, he might need more than just talent and confidence around him. He might need a true difference maker on the outside, and that's where one particular name has suddenly entered the conversation. Over the last few months, one name has quietly started gaining momentum in draft conversations around the Cleveland Browns, and that name is Carnell Tate. At first, it seemed like just another prospect being discussed by analysts. But as scouts continued reviewing film and breaking down his skill set, the buzz around Tate started to grow rapidly. Tate built his reputation playing at Ohio State Buckeyes football, a program that has become one of the most reliable pipelines for elite NFL wide receivers. Over the past decade, Ohio State has consistently produced pass catchers who transition smoothly into the professional game. Because of that history, many scouts immediately pay close attention when another Buckeyes receiver begins rising on draft boards. And Tate fits the mold in several ways. One of the first things analysts notice about him is his route running. Tate isn't just fast, he's precise. His ability to create separation with subtle movements, sharp cuts, and timing makes him extremely difficult for defenders to stay with. Defensive backs often look comfortable early in the route, only to realize too late that Tate has already created a window for the quarterback. But his skill set goes far beyond simply getting open. Another reason scouts are intrigued by Tate is his ability to win contested catches. In the NFL, receivers frequently have to make plays while defenders are draped all over them. Tate has repeatedly shown the ability to track the ball in the air, position his body correctly, and secure catches even in tight coverage. That kind of reliability is something every young quarterback desperately needs. His ball tracking ability downfield has also stood out. Some receivers struggle when the ball is thrown deep, but Tate appears comfortable adjusting to passes in midair. That ability to locate and control the football while running at full speed makes him a legitimate vertical threat. And despite what some early scouting reports suggested, several analysts now believe Tate may be faster than many people initially assumed. His acceleration off the line and his ability to maintain speed through routes allow him to threaten defenses in multiple ways. Of course, every prospect enters the draft with questions. Some scouts believe Tate still needs to prove he can consistently dominate at the professional level. Others think he may take time to develop into a true #1 receiver. But the potential is undeniable. That's why his name keeps appearing in conversations connected to Cleveland's draft plans. If the Browns are serious about building a stable environment for their young quarterback, adding a polished receiver like Tate could make a huge difference. Because when a rookie quarterback enters the league, having someone who can consistently win one-on-one matchups can completely change the offense. And that possibility is exactly why the discussion around Carnell Tate isn't slowing down anytime soon. When the Cleveland Browns brought Jerry Jeudy into their offense, the expectation was clear. He was supposed to become one of the main weapons in the passing game, a receiver capable of stretching defenses, creating separation, and giving the quarterback a dependable target in critical moments. On paper, it looked like a move that could instantly elevate the Browns' offense. And to be fair, Jeudy has shown flashes of exactly that. Throughout his career, Jeudy has displayed elite route running ability. Few receivers in the league can move the way he does at the top of routes. His footwork is sharp, his cuts are sudden, and when everything clicks, defenders often struggle to stay close to him. At times, he looks like the type of receiver who could dominate games. But that's where the conversation becomes complicated. Because while the talent is obvious, the consistency hasn't always matched the expectations. Some games, Jeudy looks like a clear #1 option. Other games, he disappears for long stretches, leaving the offense searching for answers. That inconsistency has quietly sparked debate among analysts and fans about whether he's best suited as a primary receiver, or if his skill set might actually fit better as a high-level #2 option. That discussion has grown louder as Cleveland prepares for the next stage of its offense, especially with the possibility of building around Shedeur Sanders. A young quarterback entering the league often benefits from having a receiver who can consistently win difficult matchups and command defensive attention. It simplifies reads, builds confidence, and gives the quarterback a reliable option when plays break down. Some observers believe Jeudy can absolutely be that player. They argue that with the right offensive system and a quarterback who trusts him, Jeudy could still produce the kind of numbers people expected earlier in his career. Others aren't so certain. There's a growing belief among some fans that Cleveland might need another receiver who can take pressure off Jeudy, someone who forces defenses to adjust their coverage and opens up opportunities across the field. In that scenario, Jeudy wouldn't necessarily lose importance in the offense. Instead, his role might become even more dangerous. After all, when a receiver with elite route running ability becomes the second option instead of the first, defenses suddenly face a much bigger problem. Of course, none of this means the Browns are unhappy with Jeudy. Teams rarely give up on talented receivers who have already shown they can produce at a high level. But in the NFL, roster building is often about maximizing strengths and balancing roles. And if Cleveland believes its offense needs one more reliable playmaker, the upcoming draft could present an opportunity to make that adjustment. Because the moment another receiver enters the conversation, the entire dynamic of the Browns' passing attack could shift. While much of the attention around the Cleveland Browns has focused on quarterbacks and wide receivers, something equally important has been happening behind the scenes: a quiet rebuild of the offensive line. It hasn't generated huge headlines and it hasn't dominated sports talk shows, but inside the organization, it may actually be one of the most important moves of the entire offseason. Over the past few seasons, Cleveland's offensive line has been a mix of strength and frustration. At times, it has looked like one of the most physical units in the league. When healthy, the group has opened running lanes and provided solid protection in the pocket. But injuries and inconsistency have repeatedly disrupted that stability. Last season in particular exposed just how fragile that balance could be. Multiple linemen missed time, forcing the coaching staff to constantly shuffle players in and out of the lineup. That kind of instability makes life difficult for any offense. Timing gets thrown off, quarterbacks feel pressure earlier than expected, and play calling becomes more conservative. That's exactly the situation the Browns appear determined to avoid moving forward. During the offseason, the front office, led by General Manager Andrew Berry, began focusing on depth and flexibility along the offensive line. Instead of relying on the same core group and hoping everyone stays healthy, Cleveland has started bringing in additional players who can compete for starting roles or provide reliable backup options. Analysts like G. Bush have pointed out that this approach is about building a stronger foundation for the entire offense. In today's NFL, protecting the quarterback isn't just about having 5 good linemen. Teams need depth because injuries are almost inevitable over the course of a long season. That philosophy becomes even more important when a young quarterback enters the picture. If the Browns plan to develop Shedeur Sanders into the future leader of their offense, the worst thing they could do is place him behind a shaky offensive line. Rookie quarterbacks often struggle when they're constantly under pressure. Even talented passers can lose confidence if they're forced to rush throws or escape collapsing pockets on every drive. By reinforcing the line first, Cleveland may be trying to avoid exactly that scenario. It's a strategy that several successful teams have used when developing young quarterbacks. Build protection first, establish stability in the trenches, then gradually surround the quarterback with explosive playmakers. Of course, improving the offensive line doesn't guarantee success, but it does give the offense a stronger starting point. And interestingly, this quiet rebuild might also affect how Cleveland approaches the upcoming draft. Because if the Browns truly believe their offensive line is now in better shape, it changes the entire conversation about what they should do with their next major pick. As the draft approaches, the biggest question surrounding the Cleveland Browns isn't just who they like as a prospect, it's how they plan to use one of the most valuable assets they have, the number 6 overall pick. Inside draft rooms across the league, those early selections are where franchises define their direction. And for Cleveland, the decision could reveal exactly how they plan to build around Shedeur Sanders. From the outside, the situation might seem simple. If you have a young quarterback, the natural move is to surround him with weapons. That's why the idea of drafting Carnell Tate keeps gaining attention. A polished receiver paired with a rookie quarterback could help accelerate the offense's development almost immediately. But inside the Browns' decision-making process, the debate may not be that straightforward. One philosophy many NFL front offices follow is the best player available approach. Instead of drafting strictly for need, teams simply select the highest-rated prospect remaining on their board. If Cleveland truly believes its roster has improved during the offseason, particularly along the offensive line, then that strategy becomes much easier to justify. That means the Browns could be considering several completely different directions. One possibility is adding a defensive star. Cleveland's defense already features elite talent, including Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, but some analysts believe the team could still strengthen the unit further by drafting another impact defender. In a division filled with powerful offenses, building an even more dominant defense could be extremely appealing. Another option could involve the offensive line again, even after adding depth in free agency. Some front offices believe elite linemen are simply too valuable to pass up if one falls within reach. Protecting the quarterback remains one of the most reliable ways to stabilize a team's long-term success. Then there's the receiver argument, the one many fans are focusing on. Supporters of the Tate idea believe a young quarterback benefits most from having a reliable target he can grow with. Developing chemistry early between a quarterback and a receiver can shape an offense for years. Of course, no one outside the building truly knows which direction Cleveland is leaning. Draft boards remain closely guarded secrets, and teams often keep multiple plans ready depending on how the first few selections unfold. But what makes this moment particularly interesting is the context surrounding Sanders. If the Browns choose to prioritize a weapon for him, it signals strong confidence in his ability to lead the offense. If they go another direction, some fans may start wondering whether the organization believes the roster already has enough pieces in place. Either way, the decision will say a lot about Cleveland's vision for the future. Because sometimes the most revealing moment for a franchise isn't what they say publicly, it's the choice they make when the clock starts ticking on draft night. There's one factor that makes the Cleveland Browns situation even more complicated, and it has nothing to do with their roster alone. It's the division they play in, because the AFC North isn't just competitive, it's widely considered one of the toughest environments in all of football. Every single season, teams in this division are forced into physical, high-pressure matchups where mistakes get punished immediately. There are no easy games, no comfortable matchups. And for a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, that reality can turn every Sunday into a serious test. Start with the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore consistently fields one of the most disciplined and aggressive defenses in the league. They're known for complex blitz packages, fast linebackers, and defensive schemes that confuse inexperienced quarterbacks. Young passers often struggle the first time they face that kind of pressure. Then there's the Cincinnati Bengals. Their offense has become one of the most explosive units in football, led by quarterback Joe Burrow. Cincinnati can score quickly and force opposing teams into shootouts. That means Cleveland's offense can't afford slow starts or stalled drives if they want to keep pace. And of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers are always lurking. Pittsburgh's identity has long been built around tough defense and relentless pass rushers who make life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. Even in seasons when their offense struggles, their defense often keeps them competitive deep into games. When you combine all of those matchups, the AFC North becomes a brutal proving ground for any young quarterback entering the league. Sanders won't just be facing talented defenders, he'll be facing some of the most experienced defensive coordinators and aggressive defensive fronts in football. That's why the Browns' draft decision carries so much weight. Some analysts believe Cleveland should focus heavily on defense to keep up with the physical nature of the division. Others argue that supporting Sanders offensively might be the smarter move. Giving him a reliable weapon could help him survive those intense divisional matchups by allowing the offense to respond quickly when games become high-scoring. Because in this division, momentum can shift instantly. One explosive play can change the outcome of an entire game. And if Sanders is going to succeed in an environment this unforgiving, the Browns may need to make sure he isn't fighting those battles alone. Which is exactly why the conversation around Cleveland's next move keeps getting more intense the closer the draft gets. As the draft conversation grows louder around the Cleveland Browns, a growing group of fans believes the team may be sitting on a decision that could reshape the franchise for years. And it all revolves around one possibility: pairing Shedeur Sanders with a young receiver who could grow alongside him from day one. That's where the discussion around Carnell Tate keeps resurfacing. For many supporters, the idea isn't just about adding talent, it's about building chemistry early. In the NFL, some of the most dangerous offenses are built around quarterback-receiver duos that develop a deep understanding of each other's tendencies. When that connection forms, timing improves, trust builds, and entire defensive schemes can start to break down. Fans often point to examples across the league where a young quarterback found a receiver who became his security blanket, someone he could rely on when plays broke down or when the game was on the line. When those partnerships click, they can define an offense for nearly a decade. Some Browns fans believe Cleveland has an opportunity to create exactly that type of connection. The logic is simple. Sanders is still at the beginning of his NFL journey. Tate, meanwhile, is entering the league with a skill set that many scouts believe could translate quickly to the professional level. If the two players develop chemistry early, they could grow together as the offense evolves. Of course, not everyone agrees with that perspective. Some observers believe Cleveland should prioritize strengthening other areas of the roster instead. The team already has talent at wide receiver, including Jerry Jeudy, and some analysts argue the Browns might benefit more from reinforcing their defense or adding additional protection along the offensive line. There's also the unpredictable nature of the NFL draft itself. Even highly praised prospects sometimes need time to adjust to the speed and complexity of the professional game. Just because a receiver excels in college doesn't automatically guarantee immediate success on Sundays. Still, that hasn't stopped the excitement among fans who see Tate as a potential missing piece. On social media and in fan discussions, some supporters believe a Sanders-Tate connection could give the Browns a new offensive identity. Instead of constantly searching for stability at quarterback, Cleveland might finally build a young core capable of growing together. And if that vision becomes reality, the Browns' draft decision this year could be remembered as the moment the franchise turned a corner. Because sometimes, one pick isn't just about filling a position. Sometimes it's about starting a partnership that changes everything. The Cleveland Browns are approaching a moment that could quietly define their future. With the number 6 pick, the decision isn't just about talent, it's about direction. Do they surround Shedeur Sanders with another weapon like Carnell Tate or strengthen other areas of the roster? Either path sends a message about how the franchise views its young quarterback. Some fans believe this pick could jumpstart a new offensive era, while others think patience is the smarter approach. But one thing is clear: when draft night arrives, Cleveland's choice could shape the team's identity for years.